September 10th, Charlie Kirk was giving a talk at Utah Valley University, and out of nowhere he was shot dead, live, in front of a bunch of college kids, in front of his wife and his 2 children.
So, small little caveat there. Again, this does kind of irritate me. So this was put out 4 days ago. And this is one of the biggest problems I have with YouTubers to any degree. Is that their general lack of any kind of information control or standards is really bad. They're terrible with this. So I don't want to be too harsh on this point here, because somewhat it matters, somewhat it doesn't. But based on all the information that I've seen, all the bits and bobs that I've heard and the news here, unless there's something else that came out that I missed, so I'm willing to admit I may be wrong on this. He was not shot in front of his kids and wife. They weren't there at the time. I think if they were on campus, I think they were in a separate area. I don't believe they were there at the time. I don't believe so. I'm fairly certain they weren't there at the time. So again, this appeal to emotion, this hyperbole, the great tragedy of a man dying in front of his family that they want to kind of put forth. Again, it's still tragic, it's still terrible, all that stuff, but it is adding a bit of flavor and a bit of extra spice, if you will, to this narrative that is, one, probably unnecessary. I don't really think you need it. But two, it shows a general desire and a love for the narrative over the actual truth. They would rather be guided by their feelings and narrative desire than any kind of adjustment and or acknowledgement of reality.
But I don't think the country is ever going to be the same. Not only.
So, I don't think the country is ever going to be the same. The next thing that I find very annoying about this is the hyperbole around this. And part of the thing is like this, it might be true that it's never going to be the same, but it's not because this was a world-defining moment. It's because you don't want it to be the same, because you want this to be a change. You want this to be a radical, crazy kind of thing. So much so, again, because that's the narrative. You want it to be more than it is. And while it's tragic and terrible, honestly, the idea of somebody getting shot at a political rally, whether they be a politician and or a pundit, that's not really that new. Or even that shocking for America. It doesn't happen very often, but it's not the rarest goddamn thing in the world. It just isn't. And especially in America, gun violence just isn't that shocking to us. The fact that everybody is constantly trying to say this is a turning point. This is a 100% narrative. They want to sell you that this is a state of no going back. This helps to fuel rage, anger, fear, and it doesn't really mesh with my sense of reality. It's bad, but like, quite frankly, as terrible as it is, it's also like this. Yeah, this is what America, like, this is part of it. Like, yeah, just because it hasn't happened in maybe a couple of years, a decade or two, that doesn't mean that this is not something that is absolutely in American culture. Is this violent, hateful destruction of life based upon some politics or some kind of mental thing, some kind of fantastical conspiratorial narrative, or some kind of weird I do this and I'll be famous, maybe? Like, we have dozens of shootings, school shootings, mass murder events, all the time, just in America, all the time. And none of those were the turning points. None of those changed America. None of them. And no conservative ever said that it changed America. Sandy Hook did not change America, despite the fact that that was a bunch of goddamn kindergartners. I believe, I'm trying to remember because there's been so many goddamn school shootings, but you would think of all of the shootings that ever happened, the one where a bunch of children, really children, we can't even make an argument like, well, maybe high school students aren't really children because they're like young adults almost, or some kind of stupid thing. No, this is straight up kindergartners were killed. Didn't change jack shit. And in fact, conservatives were absolutely livid at the idea of anybody suggesting that this is a moment of change. So this kind of weird, this narrative that you're trying to pull, Shoe, is just not... It is disingenuous in the extreme.
Only because of this horrific tragedy, but because of everything that followed. The dark, disturbing realization that we may not be on the same page as our coworkers, classmates, friends, neighbors, doctors, when it comes to the issue of murder.
Okay, so, again, you're trying to be serious, and I'm afraid you might be just kind of a stupid person, or generally oblivious, or willfully oblivious to things, is that I don't sure even if I disagree with this, but this is kind of like from somebody who's more of a liberal, lefty person. Welcome to the fucking club. Welcome to reality, to where you guys don't realize, and many conservatives don't realize, just how far off the fucking edge they have been going for the past 15 years or so. 15, 20 years. Certainly in the past 10 years. How absolutely insane they have gotten. This idea of, oh, my neighbors, we might not be on the same page when it comes to murder. Yeah, well, the fact that conservatives have been celebrating, mocking, and doing horrible, horrible rhetoric about every single murder that any left, liberal, or anything like that, any side that is left of center has highlighted. Yeah, this has been the, like, wow, they're kind of awful. These conservatives really just are super violent and really nasty. And it's worn down a lot of leftists. So, like, oh my god, all these left people are being so cruel and mean. I'm sorry, did you miss the last 10 plus years of, fuck your feelings, snowflake? Well, that was just talking about feelings. No, it was talking about, like, people were talking about genuine, horrific abuse, suffering, and terrible things. And every single conservative said, well, I mean, sure, that's bad, but fuck you. I want to say mean things. And comedy's illegal now, apparently, was the battle cry of the right for years now. And Charlie Kirk dies. Terrible tragedy. And some people, less sensitive, maybe a bit more cynical, say things that are mean and cruel. And you're like, oh, well, nobody on the right celebrated death. Fuck you. Look back at any, and I mean any, killing of any black individual of any kind in the past 10 plus years that got any attention from Black Lives Matter or anything like that, and look at the absolute gargantuan wave of poor taste jokes that came from the right and even the center right. All within a day or two of the murder. People were making jokes and goddamn doing pantomime reenactments of George Floyd's death. No sensitivity there. Or the, what was it, Ahmaud Arbery. The guy who was chased down by angry, pissed off rednecks who basically went out with shotguns and pistols to chase down this poor black guy and murder him in the street. A modern day lynching. Guarantee you, within a day or two, sometimes even the day of, you look through any of these conservative pundits' media, social media, you will find abhorrent celebration. And mockery at the very least.
I was crashing out on Twitter a few days ago, just stream of consciousness posting about it, with run-on sentences and everything. 4 days later, I have a clearer head, but I
really don't think you do. because you're still operating on that same crash out.
Still feel the exact same way. So we are going to talk about what happened, we're going to talk about the aftermath, and then we're going to get a little personal, because frankly, I don't see the country the same anymore.
Why does it have to get personal? And also, like, I don't see the country the same anymore. This is what broke you? I'm just so surprised. Like, how sheltered are you? Or how cruelly ignorant are you of the suffering of the tens of thousands, millions of people around you? This is what did it for you. It's just so convenient. I've used that before. It's so goddamn convenient. Ignorance allows you to have this convenient revelation. And again, it's only ever used to attack and destroy people to an alarming extent. And it's like this, oh, now I'm not going to have sympathy and empathy for the left. I can't trust them anymore because they didn't mourn Charlie Kirk's death. And it's just kind of like, look, it just feels really, it feels like such a one-sided battle trying to do this. It's that empathy is just expected all the time. You're expected to be completely 100% empathetic all the time. And you're supposed to be empathetic for these people on this side, this political party, this political persuasion, this ignorant part of society that never shows you any empathy or sympathy at all, while you are actively doing evil. That's the big thing, is you are actively harming, going after people. This isn't just some two neutral parties. It's not the same.
And I know a lot of you feel the exact same way, so we're going to talk about it after we talk about everything else. Charlie Kirk was not a healthcare CEO. He was not a powerful
Why does it matter? So it's okay for the healthcare CEO. Okay, but why is it okay for the healthcare CEO? The idea is that, well, they're in charge, they're powerful, and they make policy decisions that harm millions of people. In many ways, Charlie Kirk has been involved with a lot of politics. He has been an advisor on policy and politics. And his politics, his ideas, his way of doing them even his rhetoric, that's what I'm talking about there with his way of doing it, his rhetoric is objectively harmful and non-constructive. So this idea that, oh, well, he was just a guy talking. No, he really wasn't. He really wasn't. He was more than that. You can't both deify him, but then also tell you he's just a man. You can't have it both ways. Sorry, it's not Jesus. Can't have it both ways. Again, there's just no accountability. And that's the thing that frustrates me, is that there is zero accountability for anything Charlie Kirk ever said or did.
Politician. And let me be 100% clear, I'm not saying this to say that it's okay when those people are murdered. My point is that those are positions of power that most people can...
Again, Charlie Kirk used his platform, used his millions of dollars that he was given by Republican donors and his father and support from various people. He didn't start up from the ground up with just, his bootstraps, as everyone's trying to say. He was absolutely a privileged, silver spoon up his ass individual. Charlie Kirk created a watch list for professors who dared to teach or educate people on gender theory, whatever it is. And even if you disagree with it, all of those professors, they have talked about it. And I've talked with people who talked with them, who were friends with some of them, and gotten stories and gotten these ideas. And I've seen some of the stuff that they've had to deal with. They've gotten death threats yearly. Every time they were put on there, there's this massive outwave of death threats and harassment. Even harassment on campus. People coming on campus and harassing them. People sending mail fucking death threats and kind of mail to their mailboxes. Them having to hire personal security and them having to talk with local campus security and university security. Them having to move out of their house temporarily because there are people who are posting addresses to their house with explicit death threats. And Turning Point USA knew this, they were told about this, and did not give a shit because these people deserve to be destroyed, was the general idea. These people are doing wrong. I take no accountability for my actions, even though these are absolutely what I want. I want these people put on a board to be socially harassed with extreme prejudice. Charlie Kirk was not some powerless figure. Charlie Kirk was a very privileged person. Again, was he as powerful as the United CEO? Maybe, maybe not, but he certainly was an ideas person. And yes, he spread ideas that were explicitly and objectively harmful. As close to objectively harmful as we can get.
Cannot relate to. Like, the average person is just so far removed from that world. But
again, Charlie Kirk was not a normal... This is the thing that I hate, is this, like, he's just a bootstraps normal person. No, he wasn't. Well, so, if he was, so was the CEO. They all are living in an outside world. The vast majority of the upper 10%, 5%, 1%, which Charlie Kirk was kind of a part of, they just don't live in the same reality as us.
I think what happened to Charlie is hitting differently because, like I said on Twitter, he was just a fucking guy. He was a...
No, the reason it's hitting differently is because you identify with him because you also aren't normal, Shoe0nHead. You aren't. You're a YouTuber with a pretty sizable following who has made a fair amount of money with that following, almost certainly. Certainly, you're probably a millionaire. She's probably a millionaire. Not like a lot of millions, but depending on how much she spends her money and how much she's wasted, she's probably very, very comfortable living. She's easily in the top 10 percentile earners of America. Pretty easily, I would say. You just, again, I hate to tell, and also, you do this spreading YouTube bullshit, which is itself such an incredibly niche kind of thing. You are not normal. At all. And the reason why is because, I'm sorry that the extremely privileged niche industry of pundits, political pundits, and bullshit artists and debaters, who have never debated in good faith. Charlie Kirk never debated in good faith. I don't care that he believed in what he said. He specifically and selectively ignored basic facts and reality because it contradicted his beliefs. That is bad faith. Like, I'm sorry, like, you can't, it's bad faith. He was not normal, but he was of your same class. He was a you are semi-right-wing, anti-woke, anti-university, anti-LGBTQ, anti-all these crazy liberals and leftists. Though you yourself don't want to say you're anti it because you're privileged and you like the privilege of being able to enjoy all of the goods and the cultures and the ideas that can be produced by those very same things you rail against. You want to be able to consume leftist media if it pleases you, and leftist culture if it pleases you, while at the same time doing everything you can to talk shit about it. You just want to be a privileged individual with absolutely zero consequences of what you do and what you say. And Charlie Kirk was much the same way. He was in that same class. And Charlie Kirk died, and now you're like, oh my god, that could happen to me. Yes. This is the reality that the rest of the universe has to fucking live with. This is why everybody is pissed off about gun violence. It's because it happens to us. It's just now, congratulations, it happened to your class. Welcome. It sucks. Do you want to do something about it? No, what you want to do is, of course, do the thing that you've always done. Is use your platform to do this bullshit.
A fucking podcaster. He was a guy
He wasn't a podcaster. Like, he had a podcast, but he was... Again, he did a lot more than that.
who talked about politics. He was a guy who had conservative beliefs.
Again, I'm sorry, you just don't know Charlie Kirk. And I'm going to be honest, the vast majority of people who are talking about this, who are slobbering all over his dead dick, don't know who Charlie Kirk was, don't know what he did in the background, don't know how he supported various institutions and various things, don't know how he supported various figures to get into here to enact his policies. Like, again, that's perfectly fine. He can do that. Again, this is not justifying anything, but this is also, this is what the reality was, is that he was not just a guy with a podcast who talked about politics. He was somebody who enacted them, who went through a great deal of effort to see them enacted, who changed his rhetoric and lied and cheated and told the truth and bent the truth and lied whenever he could to enact those policies which affect real life people, which affect their lives in a material and objective manner. Whether it is good or evil, it doesn't matter. That is significant. You might as well just say that Martin Luther King Jr. was just a speech guy. He was just a reverend. That's how stupid this is. He was just a reverend speaking his beliefs. Yes, but no. Like, that's not, like, again, it was unjustified what happened to Martin Luther King Jr. It was unjustified what happened to Charlie Kirk. But for the love of God, stop lying to yourself. Because this is that same kind of doe-eyed, ignorant, I just want the privilege of being a common person while also having the privilege or the lack of responsibility of a common person with the extreme privilege of the aristocracy. Stop it.
Not everyone knows a billionaire CEO or a powerful politician, but they do know somebody with conservative beliefs.
Yes, I know people with conservative beliefs. I also know that they've become more and more like Charlie Kirk than they've ever thought, and that makes them a gigantic asshole. It's not just that they have conservative beliefs. That wasn't why Charlie Kirk was killed. We don't know why he was killed, but for the most part, he was probably killed because a confused, pissed off, angry, stupid, online brain-rotted dipshit didn't like him because he said something wrong. Because an opinion changed. And instead of having a normal human reaction of just disliking this person and not watching them anymore, this person, like many other crazy lone gunmen, obsessed, hyperfixated, catastrophized to an elaborate extent, to the point where it doesn't even trying to pin this on political ideology is going to be somewhat nonsensical. And I would say that about most of the right and left or any kind of shooters. In general, it is somewhat indicative, we might say, of the political atmosphere and the conversation that's happening, perhaps in the rhetoric that can cause this. Certainly I can see some of that, but for the most part, it's more just indicative of, again, the kind of brain rot that isolation and extremism can bring. We don't know why Charlie Kirk was shot. We don't know what the motivation was. We have zero goddamn idea. Honestly, it could be a mixture of Charlie Kirk said something that this kid, on one of the pendulum swings of emotional instability, caught it at the wrong moment. And then the kid also thought, well, at the same time, like, well, this would also be, like, super, like, crazy to do. Like, man, I want to see this on the news. I want to see this, because in many ways, that's kind of what he said. He wanted to see Fox News say, ooh, woo, notice your bulge. You might say, well, that was just a passing comment, but I think, like, that's as deep as it kind of goes. Sadly, with a lot of these shootings, there isn't some elaborate hoax. There isn't some elaborate conspiracy theory. Oftentimes, it really is stupid. It's stupid, simple, poorly thought out, poorly matching onto any ideals. It just doesn't make any sense. Because, of course it doesn't. It's an irrational action done by an irrational actor.
They know somebody who holds some or many of Charlie Kirk's opinions. Because despite what people in their little bubble believe, his core ideology and what he believed is the same shit like your conservative boomer uncle on Facebook posts.
Yeah, that's the problem. And that's not saying that, again, you're appealing to a normal, like, this is normal. The problem is that this is now normal because it has been normalized. That's what they talk about when they talk about normalization, Shoe, is that extremism can be normalized. And when it's normalized, you and anybody else who is not paying attention, who just takes things as they are without any critical thinking, will just go, well, yeah, that's the normal. Even though you have factual evidence in your own experiences and the things you have read in the past and engaged with in the past that should be telling you there was a change, because you're so absent-minded, you're so disconnected from reality, and you're just going based on what's normal at the time was apparently always normal. Not realizing that figures like Charlie Kirk have radicalized, made radicalism normal in these areas. Yes, I have an uncle who does this, who posts this stuff. He didn't post this 15 years ago, 10 years ago. He just didn't. Maybe 10 years ago. But he didn't do it 15 years ago, 20 years ago. He just didn't. He was conservative back then too. But he didn't, because he understood, he just worked with us. But again, he became a hateful, even more hateful and bigoted than anything. Mostly just due to, again, he's just using it as an excuse for his own personal problems. But I have an uncle who absolutely has gone off the fucking deep end, who feels like now, for some reason, he posts as much as a 16-year-old girl used to post on MySpace and fucking Facebook and shit like that back in the mid-2000s. Which he would have laughed at. God, that's stupid. Why the hell are you engaging in that? That's dumb. He's now addicted to it, basically. He posts an insane amount of stuff. For a guy who's constantly trying to say he's normal, good God, does he post a lot of weird shit. Desperate for likes and validation. Charlie Kirk is not normal. And his beliefs were extremist conservative beliefs. If you were to ask a conservative 20 plus years ago, 30 years ago, that if America should be a Christian nationalist state to where the separation of church and state should be abolished, that the church and Christians should dominate the political environment, and more importantly, that this should be to such an extent that we should abolish or otherwise prevent or try or use every means necessary, except for explicit violence, but use many, including discriminatory practices, to prevent people of other faith, especially Muslims, from getting into the office. Again, you'd have to go a little bit further because, again, Republicans have been insane since Newt Gingrich. But even post 9/11, if you were to ask that of a conservative in 2004, 2005, maybe 2006, they would probably say, maybe even 2008, 2009, they'd probably say, nah, that's going way too far. That's what Charlie Kirk believed. If you were to quote, and here's the big thing that I'm going to be really interested to see, if Shoe0nHead includes any of the fucking political positions and quotes that many people have cited, that myself have cited from Charlie Kirk. Because again, this was one of the biggest things that Ta-Nehisi Coates called out Ezra Klein for. And many of these people who are whitewashing Charlie Kirk's ideology and his past and his behavior is that it is notable that for all of their talk about how great of a communicator he is, how much he tried to bring people together, how much he did politics the right way, and how he did this, not a single one of them had quotes of his major positions, because you could absolutely, again, you could choose the somewhat less inflammatory ones, but if you wanted to summarize his positions in a objective, not good, not bad, simply this is what they are and what they believe, most people would find, a good chunk of people would find them abhorrent or extremely problematic or having major flaws of bigotry and ugliness in them. Nobody, for all of your veneration of Charlie Kirk, there isn't a single goddamn word of it, And I'm going to be honestly curious if in this 20-minute video, if Shoe0nHead is going to bring up jack shit of what Charlie Kirk actually says and believes. Because his beliefs were not common. And the fact that they have become, to some degree, more normalized on the right is terrifying.
You can only disagree with this if you are unfamiliar with Charlie Kirk, or you are unfamiliar with the many different branches and different ideologies of the right wing. Now, don't get me wrong, Charlie Kirk had many bad takes over the years. Like, for example, the two most popular quotes I see people post.
Oh, wow, we're actually going to do this, but of course we're going to say, oh, sure, he had lots of bad takes. These aren't bad takes. These are policy decisions from a major political pundit who has had the ear of the President of the United States explicitly, who has been involved in major activism and been involved in policy, kind of, not necessarily policy writing, but in the policy kind of theorizing, and who has been absolutely in contact with major other political figures who are working to create policy to guide other conservatives on their policy positions. Charlie Kirk was not just a guy talking. He just wasn't a guy who had bad takes. This is just, again, this is just this privileged thing to where I want to be able to do everything and nothing and have zero responsibility, and it just works out. You don't get that.
Are the one where he advocated for stoning gays and black women are too stupid to be pilots.
What's with the weird quotes around the stoning the gays thing? Again, like the fact that you're treating this so... I feel like if you're going to treat his death seriously, you need to treat his life seriously. You need to treat his words and everything seriously. So yes, if it is problematic, what he said, bad takes as you say, treat it seriously. Because, again, this is not something that just accidentally happens. And again, but this goes back to, again, the idea that I just want to be somebody who can say and benefit from everything that happens based upon my words and have zero accountability, consequences, social, financial, anything at all, ever from anything. And I want my words to have material effects on the world, but I don't want anybody to ever perceive that as that, because then that might give justification for material effects on me. This is not justifying anything. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, again, it's not in a vacuum.
But guess what? Both those things, the two most popular quotes people are posting to justify this guy being...
Actually, I haven't seen the stoning one. I've seen more quotes posted, but and honestly, there's way more than two. There are dozens. I put out a video. You guys can watch it. In the beginning of the video, there's a TikTok compilation that was put together by, I can't remember who it was. I think Rebecca Watson grabbed it, but there might have been a secondary person who actually made it, and then Rebecca Watson found it and added to it. But again, you can check that out. Check out also Rebecca Watson, her YouTube channel. But it's a solid minute, 2 minutes of, what, 2 dozen plus statements that are all horrifyingly awful and have zero, like, again, you have to really work to try to explain and try to figure out how can I put this in a light that doesn't make it sound extraordinarily racist and evil.
Murdered are out of context, but idiots like...
They're out of context. Idiots like Stephen King. He advocated for stoning gays to death.
Like Stephen King ran with it, then later had to apologize for spreading misinformation about a dead man. These people will build a straw man of you in their minds. They get so...
Yeah, that's the one. I like that. Okay, so these were things. So you look at one. That's an interesting example. Okay, how about the blacks are too stupid, or black women, or the horribly racist thing that he said? How about that? Are you gonna disprove that? I hope so. You got the one. Oh wow, they strawmanned one position. Well, it's hard to, again, it's kind of hard to blame them, seeing how he's advocated for public executions. He's talked about how the LGBTQ community are freaks and they're trying to steal your children. And then he's made comments about anybody who's trying to steal children or otherwise corrupt them. They are they should be, again, punished in the extremist sense. They should be thrown in federal prison and maybe even executed for their crimes against the children and the innocent. It's hard to not make some of these connections and go, well, it sounds like, this guy probably wants to advocate for that and would be okay with that.
Being mad about it that they celebrate the real you dying. Horrifying. But more importantly, even if everything was in context, who cares? Oh, he said this. Oh, he said this. I don't care. There are many.
Words have no value and no power, so why are you speaking? If you believe that words have zero power, zero ability to affect and change people, positive and negatively, why do you speak? Why even communicate? Other than to just simply grunt of, give me food, give me water, I go to sleep, give me sex. Basic things, basic requests. If you didn't believe that, then why are you speaking passionately in front of an American flag to show your patriotism in your weird little fucking, what is that, like 19th century fucking housewife, maybe even 20th century housewife fucking get up?
Many things he
Are you trying to cosplay as a TradCon wife?
said that I disagree with. There are many things he said that I think are bad. Who cares?
Who cares? Well, you don't. Because you weren't impacted by them. Because you are in a privileged position to where you have money, power, and general social position for various factors that it won't matter to you. Charlie Kirk could say women aren't allowed to have any podcasts anymore. Then all of a sudden it might matter to you. But unless he says that all you women should be banned off of YouTube because they're just whoring themselves out in OnlyFans and softcore porn stuff, which doesn't sound too far off when Charlie Kirk has said before about various things, also then you'll have a fucking something to say because it impacts you. Just because, again, this is just the extreme privilege that comes with this kind of rhetoric.
It is just a fact that nothing he said warranted his life being taken away. This is America. We have freedom of speech here. Unless you criticize a certain country, but for the most part, we have freedom of speech here. So after detaining not just one wrong guy, but two wrong guys, the FBI finally got the shooter. Only because his own father turned him in. I guess they were just too fucking busy not releasing the Epstein files to catch a political assassin.
And it's interesting, this kind of change here is that you do realize that you're talking about, oh, release the Epstein files or whatever. Like, I know Charlie Kirk made a little bit of an about change on there, but it's a little bit kind of interesting to where you can be so supportive and so defensive of one side and then bring up something that is objectively awful that they're doing, and then still kind of just not really maybe realize that maybe this is why people aren't particularly interested in dealing with them because of the hypocrisy, but whatever.
It was this f***ass demon, Tyler Robinson, 22 years old.
Demon? He's not a demon. He's a human being. Stop trying to separate him from you. He's part of the human race, much like you are. Take accountability for your species.
Another irony-poisoned Reddit shooter who wrote a bunch of memes on the bullets, including "Hey fascist catch" and
"Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this question mark?"
I fucking hate it here. A lot of people were saying that the shooter was a groiper, which is a far-right fan of the streamer Nick Fuentes, and I have no fucking idea where that came from. I'm gonna be so honest, I have seen no actual proof of this.
Well, again, there's no real proof of that. They're just going based upon, again, the fact that the groypers really hated Charlie Kirk, that they're meme irony pilled with their fucking insanity, and some of those things kind of fit upon that. But again, like, I don't think he has a coherent ideology. I don't really care one way or the other.
It doesn't make sense because someone further right than Charlie Kirk wouldn't call Charlie Kirk a fascist.
Yeah, they would. Because, again, the word has no meaning to these people because they don't want it to have meaning because they've been called this. They'll call somebody who stops them from doing what they want to do a fascist. That's how stupid these people are. Again, trying to use logic on this one is a bad idea.
And they wouldn't say he was hateful. Their proof is that the shooter once dressed up like the Slav squat meme from 2012. And
again, you could be upset with this, certainly. But this is all within, like, 24 hours. This was all within 24 hours. There's all kinds of stupid shit that comes out. We can criticize the stupid shit, but only if it's somewhat indicative of a cultural rhetorical tradition, maybe. But honestly, most of this right-wing people, left-wing people, they were all spreading this for a second or two. And then I guess they stopped. Now it doesn't matter.
Also found a separate meme of Pepe the Frog dressed like the Slav squat meme. Therefore, the shooter is a groiper. That is like seeing a photo of the shooter dressed like a clown, and then seeing this image of Pepe the Frog dressed like a clown, and then being like groiper confirmed. What is the connection? The shooter didn't even post the Pepe image. Like, where did the Pepe even come from? Just a bunch of liberal boomers not understanding me.
Again, this wasn't just by liberal boomers. This was by also some centrists, even some conservatives were wondering this. Again, the idea that you're immediately placing the blame on this on the leftists is just kind of strange. Like, yes, everybody ran with this to a certain degree, but again, they just went with the reason why it's like, okay, somebody shot Charlie Kirk. Who has a beef with Charlie Kirk that is internet brain rotted? Well, the first one that's probably going to come to mind that are genuinely threats, that have some degree of history of violence to them, are groipers. The extreme, insane online groiper people. Again, that's the connection. That was it. It was just early speculation. Stupid, dumb, doesn't lead to much. That's it.
The other thing I saw was the shooter had Republican parents, and therefore the shooter must be Republican, which is just funny because we all see what these people say about their Republican parents every Thanksgiving. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, but again, the majority of the time, again, if you had to draw... If somebody has conservative parents, more likely than not, they will grow up conservative, and they will probably have some degree of conservative values, or they will oftentimes go through, and again, this could also be true. He could have been conservative to a certain degree, went online, or just generally in his early 20s, because he's in his early 20s, has some kind of ideological shift that is confused to where he both holds certain conservative values, but also doesn't understand how to deal with these things, becomes extremist in weird, stupid ways that are contradictory to themselves, to where he is both somehow taking extreme right and extreme left positions without even consciously realizing that they're not compatible, because he's a stupid fucking 20-year-old trying to figure stuff out. Again, you're looking for logic and coherence in insanity and in a stupid area.
See, it's September 14th when I am recording this, so maybe more things will come out. Editor Shoe here, more things came out. Definitely not a groiper. At the end of the day, he could have every... Editor Shoe here, more things...
Again, this is said by the Utah governor, says the motive in Kirk shooter is not yet certain, but the suspect was on the left. Again, what you should then add here is that the Utah governor had zero fucking evidence to say this. Nothing new. He just said this because that's it. Because literally the same level of evidence that you have right now that says it's a groiper is the same evidence that they're using to say it's a left person. There's nothing here. This literally was just, again, oh, he had a trans roommate / lover, maybe. They're working off of that thing. And the Utah governor, again, is a hard right conservative dickhead just trying to get ahead of this, who even said, like, I hope it's not one of us. I'm pretty sure that was the same governor who said that, the same person. Like, again, this is not evidence. This is the problem of what I talk about with anti-intellectualism, is that you literally went to find somebody who said something that went along with you, and now you're trying to say it as this is truth. But if you read through this, I would never use this, because I would go, well, did he actually get any actual evidence, or is this just his personal opinion based upon the same shit that we've all seen, which is nonsensical?
this came out, definitely not a groyper. At the end of the day, he could have every single one of my or your opinions. It ultimately doesn't matter. One person may have pulled the trigger, but then we saw the reaction of many.
We think that Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck. Ay, ooh, ah.
Oh, you're looking at the inhumanity of TikTok and people on there. Yes. Were you upset when they were doing this about George Floyd? Were you? Were you upset about this when they were doing this with fucking Nancy Pelosi? Were you upset about this when, again, if you look on there, you can find in TikTok and on the right-leaning kind of social media things, there was a lot of joking about Melissa Hortman and her family. There fucking was. Y'all memory hold it and you didn't want to look at it, but you absolutely missed it.
I'm not saying she deserved it.
And I'm sorry, again, a lot of these people would be directly affected by Charlie Kirk's rhetoric and policies if his rhetoric and ideology was taken as a rule book and as a guidepost for policy, which, again, a lot of right-leaning conservatives in positions of power are doing. So it seems just like, look, yes, are they being tasteless? Yes. Are they being cruel? Yes. But a lot of these people are also going to be directly affected about it. If a Democrat was going to pass a bill that's going to cut subsidies for farmers across the board, massive federal subsidies across the board with little recourse, and was just going to do this unilaterally, and this was going to devastate the farmer market, even if they were just presenting this, they hadn't passed it, they were just saying they want to do this, and then they got hurt or injured in a car accident, I'm willing to bet you dozens, hundreds, thousands of farmers all across the nation are all going to be posting shit on social media that is explicitly celebrating that person's pain and suffering, whatever it may be. And you know what? I'm gonna go, yeah, that makes sense. They may be wrong. Maybe that person does have the right policy thing, but I'm not going to be shocked that they do this necessarily. I might find it mildly distasteful, and I could maybe talk about that, but it's not going to change my political or social opinion on things to notice that people are ugly. This is also the privilege of, in many ways, youth, but also the shelter that so much online political pundits kind of have had develop in themselves, is this weird mixture of privilege and sheltering to where, like, maybe I just grew up different. And I had to face the consequences of material reality way too often. Things that are just ideas to people were things that were just real to me. But, like, it's just like, yeah, this... You're just now noticing that people can be incredibly cruel online, heartless, and that people treat other people as objects and not as subjects, not as people when they're dealing with them. That people will say and do things in a distance about people that they would never say and do in front of that person's face, to that person's face. You're just now fucking noticing that?
But I'm saying God's timing is always right.
Yo, they got Charlie Kirk, bro. I've never been happier.
Never believe the reason I'm smiling. And it has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk. Nothing to do with...
I would say pour one out for Kirky boy, but I don't waste good beer on little bitches.
Rest in peace, bozo!
And again, half of these people are doing this because, again, the internet rewards extremism. Charlie Kirk knew this. That's why Charlie Kirk was the way he was. Charlie Kirk said horrific, terrible things about people and their suffering all the fucking time in his podcast. He's a podcaster. He put out shit like this all the time on his podcast, on his Twitters, on his TikToks. Absolutely. He was way more awful on those than you give any credit for, because you don't watch him, do you, Shoe? This is the problem. Again, This is the problem with social media, is that it rewards awful behavior across the political spectrum. You're just now noticing this.
Charlie Kirk just got put down like a fucking dog in Utah.
I do not, and I will not, ever feel bad when bad people get what the fuck they deserve.
I just heard that someone shot Charlie Kirk? Thoughts and prayers.
Oh no, someone shot Charlie Kirk. Look, I don't know who needs to hear this today, but that's how you pick up a woman.
Homie dead! Fuck your homie dead! Fuck your homie dead! He got shot in the head! He got Charlie in the neck.
As to how you thought.
I don't feel bad opinion in public.
I really give a shit. The best part of this whole
people that are like, no matter what side of politics you're on, you should never celebrate something bad happening to someone. I, on the other hand, do cheer when bad things happen to bad people.
Those likes of likes. Some of these people posting with their full names and faces.
So, they posted distasteful things. So did Charlie Kirk. Why can't they post it with their full names, Shoe? Why can't they? Why can't they post this with their full names? They have freedom of speech. Charlie Kirk was not a free speech absolutist. He was a free speech maximalist, I believe he would describe himself as. And he believed, according to that, though he was a hypocrite in extreme measures, that you should be able to say and do whatever you want. What do you want to happen to these people? Why would it matter? They should be allowed to do this under their full name and where they're from all the time. Because there should be no major social or material consequence for this, because it's free speech. Free speech is free speech. It doesn't have any power. Charlie Kirk just talked. More importantly, your reaction here. These people and the spread of this, the sheer amount of this rhetoric, cause you to feel anger and discomfort and disgust for this side, so much so that it has changed your feelings and changed you as a person. You think that maybe that might also be in the opposite direction when it comes to Charlie Kirk? That Charlie Kirk, even though, yeah, all he did was say things, according to you, that he inspired people to react and behave in ways that were, to other people who were not in agreement with that, who watched that behavior, who watched those people saying those things, who watched them post that stuff, were found it abhorrent and terrible and awful and even scary. This is why it's so hard to respect this level of ignorance and so hard to be nice about this, is because there is literally zero self-reflection. There is zero desire to self-reflect. It's just a desire to protect yourself from any kind of responsibility or awareness of self. This is stupid.
With hundreds and thousands of likes. Thousands of tweets celebrating it with 500,000 likes. And it's important to remember that all of those likes are a real person. Millions of people in this country,
actually, that's probably a lot of bots, but regardless,
apparently believe the acceptable response to speech they don't like is murder.
No. Again, it's hard to draw that conclusion because, again, they're not necessarily saying that because they don't actually believe that. In a moment of stupid, angry, you get celebrated for being the most extreme form of a thing. They are expressing sentiments designed to shock and upset and or incite an emotion. Again, you're trying to draw an objective. These people cannot be dealt with. These people cannot be reasoned with. I'm not saying any violence should be done with them. I'm just saying that they're objectively evil now, and, well, what are we going to do? Again, like a genetic fallacy in them that cannot be saved.
This wasn't just a bunch of fringe blue hair SJWs or whatever. They were teachers, professors, doctors, HR workers.
Yeah, all fields that have been attacked and harassed and have to deal with the real-world consequences of Charlie Kirk's bullshit and rhetoric. All of those fields have had to deal with Charlie Kirk and his ilk's bullshit. All of them.
There's healthcare workers, nurses, pediatricians, people who...
And also a lot of them got fired for this. A lot of them. A lot of them are getting fired. I've seen plenty of teachers, conservative teachers, educators, fucking all these other fields, absolutely responding with horrendous, terrible things in response to violence. And despite the right's insistence that cancel culture was terrible in the Obama years and some of the Trump years, the early ones, and some of Biden, the vast majority never got fired, and the vast majority never even had any goddamn consequence happen to them. Just didn't.
Work with kids, people's
Work with kids. Oh no.
classmates, roommates. They are teachers showing our children the gory...
I really doubt this. I just, this sounds utterly fucking nonsensical. And again, you found one crazy, stupid person who might have done this? Like, I can't imagine what the fuck this is going on there. And yeah, congratulations. You've harassed the teaching industry to where the only people who are going to take that job are losers or people who are just desperate for the job, people who desperately want to fix it, and probably a lot of unqualified people. I have no idea what the basis for this story is.
horrifying video of Charlie's murder.
But yeah, you found one instance of terrible stuff. Great.
On repeat. The hippy-dippy in this house we believe shitlib mask was ripped off, and underneath was nothing but psychopathic bloodlust.
Yes. Underneath. That's the only thing that's underneath there. It's ripped off. These are what they truly are. Notice again the rhetoric. The rhetoric is meant to dehumanize. The rhetoric is meant to incite this. Again, you're doing exactly what these leftists, as you criticize, do. You're just doing it in a slightly different aesthetic, the aesthetic of respectability to a certain degree, but it's still the exact same sentiment and the exact same desire. Dehumanization.
I have seen people on the right celebrate the death of people they disagree with.
I've seen a lot of that. What are you going to do? Now you're going to say, but it wasn't as bad?
Seen it. I remember Heather Heyer in 2017. But I also remember the whole internet, left and right, coming together to disavow...
No, fuck off. The left and right did not come together to disavow them. The right did not come together and disavow them. The right has never disavowed violence. Barely ever. And they do a, sure, it's bad, but... kind of disavowal at best, and even then, the vast majority of the time, they don't even acknowledge or even agree that it exists. They create conspiracy theories that it's not actually the right, it's actually the left.
And mock the few dozen people from Stormfront who were celebrating her death.
The few dozen people from Stormfront who were celebrating her death. And again, you pick one thing. You want to pick something else? You want to pick George Floyd? Do it. I don't even like George Floyd. I don't even think he was a good guy, but you want to pick that one? You want to pick, rather than an obscure murder that happened in 2017, you want to pick something that's happened in the past, 10 years or something?
This is different. It's never been like this before. It's never been this much. It's never been...
And I might even agree to a certain extent, especially it's never been this much from the liberal leftists, because they tend to be much more willing to be civil about this stuff. But it's just like, yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it's gotten this far. Part of the reason it's got this far is because the right wing has had basically carte blanche to do whatever they want, say whatever they want, with almost no real world actual consequences for the vast majority of it, with extreme prejudice, and nothing happens. And well, there's a lot of liberals and leftists who are just tired of playing by the rules of civil society. They don't want to do it anymore. And now you're all upset because the parents are now not doing it. You wanted to be the little teenager who gets to be as shitty as you want, but dinner's always on the table, and of course the parents are going to take you to school, and they're going to pick you up. But now, guess what? Yeah, no, the parents aren't doing that. They didn't make you dinner. They're not going to be nice to you. They're going to be mean and yell at you, just like you're mean and yell at them. And they're like, how dare you? You're supposed to be the adult. You're too old for this shit.
Been this brazen. Normal people have to log into like an alternate Twitter account where they can post their more unorthodox opinions. And these people are out here, full face, full name, like hell yeah, murder. What? The smug, unearned confidence these people have to be openly sociopathic with their full name and face.
Why not? It's speech. If Charlie Kirk shouldn't have faced any real-world significant consequences for his speech in any way, shape, or form, then why can't they say distasteful, mean jokes in celebration? Again, you're advocating for violence here, Shoe. This is what it looks like to advocate for violence in a subtle way. But it is still there. You're saying how that these people who are publishing it under their full name and face, which again, I think it's stupid, but I think it's stupid from an old school, like, I understand consequences of speech, and the importance of anonymity online. But you're basically saying, hey, these people have made a mistake. They've left an opening for us to go after them. That's what you're saying, Shoe.
Because they live under the pathetic delusion of being on the right side of history.
Well, they're certainly more correct to history, because most of the time what Charlie Kirk was saying was ahistorical bullshit. And most of what conservatives understand about history has been warped and shifted by, again, cranks and ahistorical bullshit.
To end. They will blame you for your death because words are violence. Words are violence, so them...
Again, this just feels like such a... It's just stupid. This is genuinely airheadedly stupid. And it's also this privileged aspect where I want words to have power, to get me power, money, and effect. But I don't want words to have any responsibility of power and effect. It's just, again, it is literally teenage brain.
Killing you is just self-defense. That's why they're...
And again, there is no justification here.
Using Kyle Rittenhouse as some kind of gotcha. Oh, if you don't condone political violence, why do you support Kyle Rittenhouse? They fundamentally don't see the difference between killing someone over speech and killing someone over self-defense, because these are the same things to them. Also,
again, I don't agree with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, but I actually could see there is a stronger link there, is that Kyle Rittenhouse went there with the desire and the general knowledge that, or at least the idea that, if trouble broke out, he was going to respond with violence and destruction. Hence why he's got his fucking AR strapped on him. That he was going to respond with violence, and he would imagine as defending the city from these rebels, from these terrorists, from all this stuff. He went there with the idea that violence was an acceptable reaction to the things that were happening. Again, it was for the most part self-defense. Not going to do that. But the idea that this can't... And again, it's not just out of that. It's also the glorification. Because, again, they've glorified the murder of these people who did it in self-defense. Oh, they were... Well, because they were in the wrong, they were attacking. Yeah, but for at least 2 of those victims, part of the reason you can kind of understand why they attacked Kyle Rittenhouse. They shouldn't have. And ultimately, it was just deemed as self-defense. But there's no evil party in those 2 deaths. The latter 2, or I'm sorry, the latter 2 shootings, I should say. The first shooting was definitely self-defense. The latter 2 were also self-defense, but there's no real villain there. But they've been villainized. They've been mocked. They've been laughed at. That's a part that you conveniently skip over, because it's, again, inconvenient for your privileged position.
So I'm going to be the one to point it out, because of course I am. I saw nobody else do it. Why are most of them women? Most of the people celebrating are women. Like, it's a good...
Because, quite frankly, Charlie Kirk, along with Joe Rogan, they exemplify a toxic masculinity aspect that a lot of women, center, left, really fucking hate traditional conservative kind of men, especially that conservative, restrictive, shut up woman, I'm a man, I'm speaking. And that's literally Charlie Kirk's kind of ideology. He kept saying, again, he talked out of both sides of his mouth about respecting women, then telling women, you know, submit to your husbands. And quite frankly, fuck yeah, that's gonna piss them off. Yeah, congratulations. You insult an entire gender repeatedly, over and over again. You attack their rights as they see are their rights. Yeah, they're going to dislike you. And women tend to be more liberal. Congratulations, you've learned about demographics.
Like 80-20 ratio all over the internet. What is going on, ladies? Basically, the whole country is shook because last year they realized how many people would celebrate the murder of a president, and this year they realized...
Again, the amount of right-wing people who have talked about how it'd be okay if Joe Biden died, how they want to see him die, how it would be fine if he died, about how he should be put in prison and executed as a traitor, which is what Charlie Kirk said. The amount of people who have talked about that, or talked about how Harris needs to go down. Like this, again, clutch your pearls harder.
Realized how many people would celebrate the murder of them. At the end of the day, this is all the inevitable conclusion of the punch a Nazi thing from like 2017. Do you guys remember that? We always knew it was a slippery slope. That's why we were against it. And they always say this dumb shit like, if you don't want to be called a Nazi, stop.
Oh, hey there, Hectic Hex. Agreed. Lock her up. Not sure who you're talking about as far as lock her up. Not sure who you're referring to as lock her up, but we'll see. So on and so on. Sure. But no, this is just, again, it's a dumb point from yeah, the slogan, yeah, lock her up. Again, it's pearl clutching of the worst sort. And I don't expect much because I know this sounds mean, but I've seen some of her content in the past. I genuinely think Shoe0nHead just is kind of a... She's just kind of dumb. I think she generally has a pretty small understanding of how things work. She's never really had a good critical understanding of how things work. She doesn't want to critically engage with it. She just wanted to do memes and online culture war stuff and say snarky stuff, and just like, it's like, okay, yeah, that's great, but you know, you're stupid. And again, like, you could say this, but like, you generally don't understand stuff. You don't understand how it works. You don't want to understand how it works. Let's see, the slogan, Night Media, they own Hassan and Asmongold and many more. I'm not sure what Night Media you mean by that, but how they own Hassan Asmongold. I'm not sure who owns, like, maybe you're talking about, what is it, like, the Amazon and Twitch streaming and all that stuff, how they own them. I think that's more of a situation, especially when it comes to streamers and stuff like that. That's more of like, they're useful. They don't really threaten, especially that market share, because as far as politics, I don't think they, at least in that avenue, I don't think they threaten either political side, and their rhetoric and divisiveness is useful for creating, again, I'm trying to think of the actual, like, the policy, the idea in economics, especially in Wall Street, but the essential idea is that to make money on Wall Street, to make money on investments, chaos is way more lucrative in the short term than steady growth. Steady growth is nice. It actually outperforms all signed up to Night Media. I don't know if that's true or not, if they're all part of the same creator agency. I might look that up, but I'll take a look into that, maybe on a different time, see if they're all part of the same thing. But the big thing is that, again, in short term, chaos is way more profitable than steady growth. Steady growth outperforms chaos in the long run, but nobody gives a shit. If you constantly are shifting from one point to the other point, you just create chaos, you profit off that chaos, and then you leave before the check comes and the fallout happens. So most of the media that you're looking at, whether it be again creator agencies, whether it be Amazon or Twitch or anything like that, they profit off of, ironically, viewpoint diversity, and to a certain degree, and they profit off of extremism. I also like how, like, again, just don't be a Nazi, it's pretty easy. There's 5 views on this. She pulled out one thing from 5 views.
It. And they always say this dumb shit like, if you don't want to be called a Nazi, stop being a Nazi. Even a congressman from...
Here's the interesting thing about the whole, if you don't want to be a Nazi, stop being a Nazi. Again, this shows, again, the general lack of awareness and understanding of anything that she's been dealing with over the past, I don't know how long she's had a career, probably close to 10 years on YouTube. I seem to remember her existing sometime back in the 2016s and before then, so she's been around for a while and she still doesn't understand anything. Is that the reason why people call conservatives Nazis, or they refer to them, is because oftentimes their policy positions and the actions that would be necessary to undertake their policy, to enact it, would require a great deal of fascistic and extreme abuses of, again, rights and privileges that are reminiscent to the same things that the Nazis did. Again, I don't agree, and I think it's a lazy thing to just compare people to Nazis because it's somewhat ahistorical and unnecessary, but shorthand, like, the reason why they were calling them Nazis is they behaved like Nazis. Like, looking at this right now, the response to Charlie Kirk's murder from the Trump administration and major powerful figures, the immediate social consequences, the immediately canceled, the immediately hounding down, the immediate hunting for names to get these people banned and fired, the immediate desire to outlaw and to create terrorist designations for things that are not terrorists, like Antifa. These are just... There is no Antifa organizations. Like, it's at best a vague ideological position, but you're going to make it a terrorist thing. Why? Because then it allows you to carte blanche apply that to anybody who is anti the institution and anti the institution's authoritarian moves. Ah, you don't like Trump and you disliked him and you called him a Nazi. That sounds like Antifa rhetoric. You are going to be investigated for being a terrorist supporter. This is exactly, again, pick up a history book. I have a minor in history. That was one of my subfields, especially World War I, World War II, and the interim period. Not specifically, mostly in U.S., but I did look at some stuff with obviously Germany. You look at the rise of Nazism, fascism in Europe and shit like that. This is exactly the kind of the playbook that they did, especially once they got power. Once these kind of center-right, more conservative elements of the German government kind of gave them an inch, Hitler and his supporters took a mile. And they didn't stop. And then they started using the rhetoric of these terrorists we need to take out. Again, they didn't necessarily say terrorists because this is a newer concept, but the same kind of idea happened. Yes, the reason they call you fascists is because you behave like fascists. That's the end of it. And sometimes, yes, it's a very inaccurate description, and they probably shouldn't use it, but that doesn't mean that what you're doing is at all morally, ethically good in a democratic, conservative or liberal idea or democracy. That it doesn't work.
my state, New York, was like, oh, if you want to stop being called a fascist, you should stop being a fascist.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great, except you've called everyone and their mother a fascist and a Nazi for the past, like, 15 years.
Yes, because they keep, again, this is what Shoe doesn't understand. And honestly, again, I don't think Shoe is very conservative. I don't think she's very liberal. She's probably kind of more liberal libertarian, actually, than if you really thought about it. Because she's just kind of a privileged, stupid person who just wants to have zero consequences for the things that she does. And the things that she talks about. She just wants to profit off of it. Okay, great. But, again, the reason why they're doing this is because conservatives, especially the hard right-leaning conservatives, the MAGAs, the Tea Party before them, have normalized extremism. They normalized extremism to an alarming extent. They kept pushing the overtone window of acceptable kind of things. And yes, now there is a massive, massive gulf between what most liberals, not even leftists, just most center-left kind of Democrats and even conservatives, because I know there's more than a few conservatives who are absolutely beside themselves, apoplectic with rage and anger because they really hate the Democratic Party. They hate voting for, they hate working with liberals, but they're looking at the conservative party as it is right now. They're looking especially at the MAGA conservative factions. They're looking at all of these people, which are becoming the majority of the conservative party, or a good chunk of them, and they are horrified. They're like, okay, like, I literally can't work with those people. Like, I hate working with Democrats and liberals, but I'm willing to do it because some of them have good ideas, some we have better ideas. But these ideas and the way they do stuff is just antithetical to American values. There's a reason they called you fascists, is because you guys kept becoming more and more fascist every goddamn year. The only reason you think it had no meaning is because sadly many liberals, and especially center-left Democrats and stuff like that, are basically spineless, and they're so obsessed with maintaining a steady status quo, and they're so obsessed with maintaining civility and maintaining nice civil governorship, which has its usefulness, but they're so obsessed with that they will ignore extreme radical behavior in the name of keeping the peace. Great irony is that they, in many ways, they mirror the same things that the conservatives would talk about, how, rowdy gang thug students are not being punished in schools. That's because the liberals are doing this. Like this, well, kind of, but not really. It's actually more like center Democrats and people who are institutionalists who are so afraid of rocking the boat that they won't punish a student for acting out. Same here, is that nobody was willing. Again, there are dozens, they have been, many conservatives have been brought up, or people have brought up like, hey, these guys should be brought up for ethics violations should be brought up for, to be censored. And honestly, they should be kind of removed from office and maybe even put in jail for some of the terrible illegal things they did. And Democrats are just so hesitant to do anything because they don't want to upset the boat. They want to rock a boat. Look at, what is it, George Santos or whatever? The lying, cheating, fraudster, piece of shit, absolute meme asshole. How long it took to punish that guy and put him in prison? It took forever, and the guy just existed for several years doing absolutely insane shit and continuously doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on his lies under oath, under all these things. And boy, it took basically forever to try to actually punish him. And we did finally punish him, barely. Like that, it was insane. And this is what has happened, is that you don't realize that the reason why you think fascism doesn't mean anything, the reason why you think you're not fascist, is because you weren't treated as such. Even though you were behaving, and many of them were behaving as such, nobody wanted to upset the family dinner by throwing the drunk, racist uncle out. So now the drunk, racist uncle and his kids and some of the family members have mistakenly thought, well, excuse me, I'm sneezing. Have mistakenly thought that, well, I guess the drunk racist uncle who was being violent and terrible, maybe that he wasn't actually, I think that's just actually, they've gaslit themselves into thinking this. Now, maybe he wasn't actually that bad.
And I see a lot of progressives in my audience like, Shoe, you're not like Charlie Kirk. You're not a fascist. Here are all the things I have been called Nazi, fascist.
Yes, congratulations. You are going to find that people have used insults incorrectly. They've probably also called you fat. Or skinny bitch. Or anything else. People will say things to insult you. People will say bad words because they know those bad words have meaning and value, and they want to hurt you with them, even if they're inaccurate. This has nothing to do with this. This could be the case, but it's not always the case in every single instance. So just because you have some cases in where somebody said somebody was a Nazi and it was not an accurate description does not mean that every single utterance of that is always inaccurate.
Reactionary for 23. Let's go. Let's just read this together real quick. Mocking / criticizing pop feminism. Believing adults can do whatever they want. Being pro-free.
Again, adults, the problem is, again, this just goes back to, she's just an extremely libertarian, I want to do everything, have zero consequences. So I want to be able to mock anybody without criticism, without being criticized back for my vapid mockery. I want adults to do whatever they want. Freedom without consequences. Being pro-free speech, you are not particularly pro-free speech because you seem to be wanting to call out these people's their free speech to call you a Nazi. Being a liberal, again, liberal, like, even if, here's the thing. Whether you're a leftist, a liberal, or conservative, if you can't... Did somebody join? Maybe it was just me disconnecting, reconnecting to Discord. Yeah, that was just me. Okay, sorry, I'm playing around here. But yeah, anyway, sorry, we're checking with Discord here. And again, all these things I've been called them Nazi fascists. And again, out of context, without any kind of connection, this is the issue that I have. I was going to go on to this. Is that if you're a liberal, if you're a conservative, if you're an independent, if you're a leftist, if you have zero understanding about the failures and the issues of your own philosophy, because nobody has the perfect solution. They all have some strengths and they all have weaknesses and they all have blind spots and issues. And those blind spots and issues can get answered to a certain degree the deeper you go, but also the deeper you go, the more likely you are to find that the application of these solutions is not quite so clear-cut, that theoretically they work, but more materially and kind of in the actual, real world, it may not actually work out because there may be lingering issues that just can't be overcome. If you aren't aware of your own side's problems, you're a jackass and you shouldn't talk about this shit, realistically or seriously. Doesn't mean you can't talk about it. It's just you should probably avoid talking about it. And if you do talk about it, you should always kind of qualify every single statement you make of, I'm a dumbass and I don't know, which I do a lot. I'm a dumbass and I don't know a lot of things. But here's the thing. I like liberalism to a certain degree, but I also have read enough leftist and even liberal literature to understand that there are some major philosophical, economical, and just general ideological blind spots, errors, and problems that come with liberalism. certain assumptions that liberalism has to make, or that was assumed without realizing. These unspoken assumptions that cause major problems. I have no problem saying that, even though I do like some aspects of liberalism, because I'm not an asshole and I'm willing to accept their strengths and weaknesses. That's it. I'm not going to listen to her whine about, again, people calling her bad names. We don't care.
Criticizing eating.
I just don't care. Yes, congratulations. You've been criticized by things.
I'm a better person than you for celebrating the death of a Nazi. And actually, it's pretty weird that you're not, and simultaneously asking people to have empathy for the Nazi.
Nazis have children and families, right? But Nazis also get shot in the neck.
They don't kill you because you're a Nazi. They call you a Nazi so they can kill you.
Blair White's an idiot, too. Again, they call you a Nazi so they kill you. Again, this is just silly and stupid. This is silly and stupid. And honestly, even if you were to take this as a grain of truth, you calling these people subhuman, crazy, evil, terrible, blah, 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 you are literally calling them X so that they can face consequences for being X. You state them as such, and that makes them that thing. Oh, but I have receipts that they did do the thing. Well, maybe there's context, and maybe that. And again, people can absolutely put out that, yes, guess what? They don't call you a Nazi for no reason. They call you a Nazi because you do Nazi stuff.
Now, I'm going to talk about my personal feelings of the situation because I know a lot of you can relate. I know a lot of you have been feeling the exact same way, so I will try and put it into words for you. I have friends who were friends with Charlie Kirk, but I didn't personally know him. We follow each other on Twitter.
So you're biased. You have friends of friends. Yes, congratulations. I have no doubt that Charlie Kirk was nice to his friends and loved by his friends, and that's tragic, and that is part of the tragedy, is the pain and suffering that's going to happen to those people. No doubt. That doesn't change, that just doesn't change the fact that he spent almost all of his time lying, misrepresenting. So like, oh, well, he believed it. Again, I believe strongly in the idea of the justified true belief in a philosophical sense, in that, I'm sorry, he does not have justifications, just cause, and to believe untrue things that he knows are not true. But he wants to say it because he knows it's not true in this instance, but he wants to imagine it's true in other instances that haven't been found, based upon the fact that he just wants to believe it. Like he doesn't have a strong justification for his belief structure. And his belief structure is explicitly anti-life in many ways. So I'm sorry. The guy lies. The guy lied all the time. I don't care if he gaslit himself into believing his own lies. He still lied. Knowingly. And then he chose ignorance and stubbornness over truth. I'm sorry. If I had to deal with that person, and that's the only way in which I've had to deal with that person, I don't go to a cookout with him. I don't get to do all the stuff that humanizes him. Yes, guess what? He's going to be dehumanized. This is a problem of society from the beginning. Welcome to reality, Shoe. This is what you do all the fucking time. With everybody, with all of the people, with the pop feminism that you mock, you look at this caricature of it based upon your own biased interpretation, which is fine. You can do that, but it's not morally or ethically good, necessarily. And people can have problems with it. And it is problematic.
I've been to the TPUSA Amerifest in 2021.
You went to one of those fucking cults? Jesus. Like, yeah, you're not an unbiased source here.
Actually went there planning to make a video making fun of it, but I had so much fun.
Yeah, but you make fun of it in the same, you would make fun of it the same way that people nerds make fun of nerddom. They don't make fun of nerddom destroy nerddom. They make fun of it as kind of like an inside joke, like, this is not serious, look how cool we are.
And met so many friends that I'm still friends with to this day. So
yes, you met people who are nice. Yes, people when they're in a place. Guess what? If you go to a feminist conference full of feminists who are going to tell their feminist stories and feminist political ideologies, and you went there and you weren't explicitly attacking or trying to provoke a reaction to them, and you just went there as like, oh yeah, I'm kind of a member, I'm joining in, I'm willing to bet you would meet dozens of people who you like and find interesting. Congratulations. People in a positive environment that validates an idea that they like are going to be likable.
So that video never happened. I disagreed with him all the time. You can literally go to our Twitter interactions. Never happened. I disagreed.
Yes, you disagreed with them all the time. But here's the thing. This right here, Republicans should not support a bill that pays people not to work. Have you seen the current unemployment in this country? Again, people in this position, the reason you don't care is because you didn't need the money. Charlie Kirk is advocating and pushing, and he's going to be telling his Republican people, and he's going to be telling Republican supporters, and those Republican supporters and he himself are going to be telling Republican policymakers, hey, this is bad, this is terrible, we should not be doing this. This is during COVID, it looks like. Yeah, July 21st. We shouldn't be having, people are going to be unemployed. We shouldn't be having the government pay them to not work. That's stupid. These people needed those checks to feed their fucking family, Shoe. You didn't. This is materially affecting them. So when they're sitting there and they're waiting for their check or hoping for their check, and they're looking at their bottom line and they're hearing about how the government is thinking about, okay, we're going to be getting some money to you guys, and we know you aren't working because we've had to shut down the country to prevent this very preventable fucking pandemic. We're having to do this now. I know it sucks for you, but we're going to ease your suffering by sending you money. And they're going to go, oh, okay, good. Hopefully this gets through quickly because, yeah, I got a little savings, but it's being eaten up quick. And then they look on Twitter and they see Charlie fucking Kirk, the asshole himself, going, they should not support the bill that pays people not to work. It's like this. You're not paying me to not work. You're paying me so I don't fucking die. So that I can work when I go back to work. I want to work, but I can't work. And now Charlie Kirk's here is trying to take food out of my kid's mouth. That's going to piss people off, Shoe. Because it affects them. Your privilege. This is what they talk about why privilege is important, and check your privilege. And I know they say in a snarky, stupid, sassy manner and all that shit, and it kind of dilutes the message. But this is what they mean when they say privilege, certain privilege and certain class positions can blind you to shit. You understand it here to a certain degree, but you, in the future, 4 years later, now you're looking back, oh, this is just a disagreement. Yeah, it's a disagreement to you. It's food or no food for some people. That's the difference. Shoe.
With him all the time. You can literally go to our Twitter and
former KKK leader David Duke endorsed Democrat Tulsi Gabbard for president. Again, nonsensical, stupid, and that doesn't necessarily mean that Tulsi Gabbard wanted this. I don't even remember the context of this bullshit. For years, we've been told that it matters that David Duke supported some Republicans. It wasn't that he just supported him, it's that those Republicans were happy for that support, and more importantly, that those Republicans were embedded with the KKK. That's the difference, Charlie. God, I hate Charlie. He's such a lying son of a bitch. Of course, now that the KK leaders are going back to supporting Democrats, the media will totally ignore this. Cease. Oh, wow. Really strongly worded there. Again, he's just being an asshole, and this is just one. This is a fairly tame by Charlie Kirk standards.
interactions. I was
Modern culture warfare the left is engaged in right now has done more damage to America in 4 years than the conservative boogeyman of socialism has ever done in the lifetime of our nation. Time to rethink our priorities and calculate proportional response. We love to see growth, Charles. If capitalism's so great, why haven't they made capitalism too? Again, you're just it's a game for you. It's fun for you. That's great. And it's probably a game to me in certain degrees, and lots of other people treat it as a game. You treated it as a game, just like those people who are celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. They were treating it as a game, as a culture war thing. And it's cruel and it's ugly. And you were happy to play in this game until all of a sudden it got a little ugly and the little dirt started flinging. And again, you're just... You're just responding because it's fun to be snarky. There's no actual thought here. Nothing, because it doesn't matter to you. It doesn't matter at all if he starts going after the left or the right, because you just don't see yourself as belonging to any of those because you were above them. You're a privileged little aristocrat playing a game of chess with real people.
Always correcting him about, like, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, oh, you're correcting him. Oh, great. You're correcting him. Bernie Sanders just now top priority as president, reinstating DACA, immigration reform, meaning open borders, abolishing ICE, amnesty, protection and healthcare for 11 million illegal aliens. Why are illegal aliens his top priority instead of Americans? Again, this is just, it sounds nice and civil, but again, he just wants you to hate illegal immigrants. He wants you to not have health care, because this health care is not just for 11 million illegal immigrants, it's also for the rest of the 300 million Americans, or at least the 100 million Americans who are oftentimes not on health care. He doesn't bring that up. Again, deliberately obscuring and lying to harm people, and again, just bringing up shit to be nasty. And again, this is back in 2019, and he's gotten more radical since then. And and you have this weak sauce. Oh, he's not for open borders, Charlie.
I made an egg look like his face. It is safe to say I was no fan. But this has really shaken me in a way that...
Why? Because again, I've described this before. The way that people are responding to this, whether it's this or the Ezra Kleins of center left, the right, these pundits, the way they've responded is it just shows you guys were above this. You were separate. You played your games and you had your things, but it wasn't really you. Because none of these things that you fought for or advocated for were really 100% objectively reality to you. You could always move away. You were like this, the aristocracy on the hill, playing this little game where you were on red side and blue side, and you piloted these terrible armies like an RTS, except the people, the little lemmings, the little Zerg, the little space marines that you're sending after the Zerg and the fights, those are all people. And the destruction that's happening in those cities as you're dropping your nukes and you're dropping your big hive lords or whatever the fuck, those are the cities where people live. But you don't. You live on the hill. And Charlie Kirk was playing with it and everyone else, and you play on a big field, and there's lots of mini games amongst many people, and sometimes you're playing on one side, sometimes you're not, and you're playing for fun and enjoyment, and you care for this maybe even to a certain degree, and sometimes you really are invested in winning this particular match. And it just so happens that Charlie Kirk, in one of these things, accidentally falls from the hill, rolls down and dies. Rolls down, and one of the little Zerglings that's out there, maybe it was one of yours or his or somebody's, doesn't really matter, one of the Zerglings ate him. He fell off his little high perch looking down on this RTS and fell down amongst the muck of people where the decisions actually hit and hurt him, and it hurt him, and he died. And that sucks, and that's sad. And now you are just absolutely fucking horrified. You're like, oh my god, this is so serious. Yeah, it's been serious for decades and decades and decades. For hundreds of years. Since the formation of this country, formation of politics, yes, congratulations. You have been made aware that you are not immune to the reality that you project and create.
I absolutely did not expect. These last few days after what happened, I kept going to every single, like, lefty, liberal, left-wing person I know and, like, checking out what they have been saying about this. And besides maybe, like, 4 or 5, every single one was being an unhinged psychopath about this.
Did you do this with anything and your right-leaning people? Did you call them psychopaths? All the right-leaning people? Or it's because they made some half-assed... Well, yeah, of course that violence is terrible, but it's funny as shit. Let's talk about it. Like, again, you clutch those pearls any tighter, they're going to become diamonds. Maybe that's your investment strategy. That's the investment strategy of the appeal here, is if you clutch your pearls tight enough, they become diamonds, then you can sell those off. But, again, I'm sorry, Charlie Kirk wasn't just a normal guy. I'm sorry, he just wasn't. For better or worse, he was not a normal person. Just having an opinion, talking shit out. He wasn't. No matter how much you try to rehabilitate his image, or try to simplify it down, or you try to make it to not what it is, it just wasn't. His existence had real-world consequences on people, both good and evil. And the people he had evil consequences on, yes, they don't like him. They dislike him. They might even hate him. They might even celebrate when he dies, because they're so angry and frustrated. Is this good? No. Not really. Is it so shocking, so horrifying, so surprising that I am just utterly incapable of dealing with it? No, because I live in the real world. I've seen people die. I've seen the pain and suffering that comes from people dying. This is a reality. Welcome. Congratulations, Shoe. Congratulations. You've moved from your teenage years into the real world. Congratulations, Shoe. You got anything else of wisdom to show?
Or saying some backhanded shit like, this is why we need gun control, which...
How is that backhanded? And more importantly, like, yes, I'm sorry, at a certain point, like, we just kind of do. And also, beyond that, this is the exact same thing that Charlie Kirk would say all the fucking time. Anything ever bad happened to a leftist, he would somehow turn it around into making some policy argument. Usually for right-wing ideology. This is what Kirk did all the time. But you weren't horrified, or you were annoyed by it when he did it. But now when they do it to Kirk, you're horrified by it. Why is that, Shoe?
First of all, we were just watching a whole bunch of people celebrate killing someone over political...
They weren't celebrating killing someone, they were celebrating his death, technically. And again, Charlie Kirk was for public executions.
differences. You are never taking our guns now. That is not happening. I felt like I was in the middle of the ocean. I was trying to like grasp onto a flotation device, checking all of these accounts for their take, like, be normal, be normal. Nothing. Nobody. I'm just drowning in a sea of evil, apparently. Maybe.
Are you going to bring up the extreme crazy right-wing rhetoric in response to this? How they're wanting to take away rights, they want civil war? Have you been noticing that? Have you been talking about that? The incessant civil war? The incessant civil war talk that they're constantly doing? You bring that up? Have you brought that up? You gonna bring that up? You gonna ever bring that up, Shoe? The Tim Pool? Let's see. Shoe0nHead. Has Shoe0nHead done anything about Tim Pool and his insane rhetoric about starting civil wars? No, but she's got a war on hot women because people responded stupidly to the City Sweeney thing. Male loser epidemic. Again, more women being bad and MAGA being amazing. The dark truth behind U.S. aid. Jesus fucking Christ. the idea that Shoe0nHead has anything to say about U.S. fucking aid is goddamn insane. More excusing for people voting for Trump. Because, again, we can't criticize Trump. It's just like, well, we can't expect better from conservatives, so we just got to criticize leftists and whatever. War on normal guys. Rise of AI girl. Like, the Twitch thought epidemic. It's just, what's that word? Pick me behavior? I hate to say this, but... Oh, and there's misinformation police. Yes, people who are... The police who are telling you this is misinformation, they themselves are bad. It's just, it's such a black or white, on or off thinking that has zero critical engagement. That's just like, well, you're just kind of stupid.
Maybe I was just blind up until now.
You were blind. You're still blind. You're still incredibly blind to the absolute depravity and the extremism that has happened on both sides. And you're also blind to the fact that the ones who have been raising the temperature consistently for 30 fucking years have been Republicans. Yes, many leftists and liberals have not been doing a great job at tamping it down, but it's really hard to put out a fire when one person is pouring gasoline on it, and you're having to put it out with your fucking feet. And your hands and a blanket. And one person keeps insisting on pouring more and more goddamn gasoline and spreading the gasoline to other fires. Yes. You have not been paying attention. You have been blind. You're still blind. You're just accepting a different blindness because it makes you feel better about the cognitive dissonance that exists in that mostly empty head.
Maybe they changed. Maybe I changed. Is everyone going crazy?
You did change. Or more importantly, actually you didn't change. Because then change would imply as a position to exist at. And a change from one position to another. Is that you just want to exist in this amorphous liberal libertarian, I do what I want when I want, and nobody can ever tell me what to do, and I just get the ultimate freedom to engage in all these things, and there's never any consequences, there's never every real restrictions, and I just have lots of money and I get to have fun.
Crazy, or am I going crazy? I don't know. All I know is it is clear how they reacted to this is how they would react to me, my family, my friends.
Yes, make it about you. They probably wouldn't. The majority probably wouldn't even know who the fuck you are, and they aren't going to react that way. And here's the thing. If, let's say a leftist, let's pick a leftist. What's a left-leaning figure? If Destiny got shot, do you think the conservatives would have responded with kindness and empathy? Do you think Charlie Kirk would have? Or do you think Charlie Kirk would have said something along the lines of, well, it's kind of tragic, but it's what happens when you're a crazy-ass leftist and you incite this crazy thing. It's his fault. Absolutely. This is why we need God in schools. Do you think they would have, the conservative Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, do you think they would have been sympathetic if that highly polemic figure, Stephen Bunnell, goes by Destiny, debate Lord, debate bro himself, or Hassan Piker? Do you think they would have cared? Like, this is genuine. Like, I've been mean very much in this thing, but maybe this is the message I send. Maybe I'll clip this and send this to Shoe, and I need you to understand. I think you're just terribly fucking naive. I think you're terribly naive, and you've been kind of sheltered by privilege, money, and many other things to where you can just kind of exist without real consequences for your actions and for many actions. And you've just kind of hung out and been increasingly okay. And this is why you like the conservative side more is because the conservative side is allergic to responsibility and accountability. to an alarming extent. And now that maybe the shoe's on the other foot or the shoe's on the other head for a second here, and maybe in this moment, again, a lot of leftists and a lot of liberals and a lot of conservative or Democrats, maybe they're just really fucking tired. Maybe they just don't want to do it anymore because they know you laughed when they died. And you might say, oh, I've never laughed at it. You did. You made mockery. I have no doubt. If I go through your fucking Twitter, if I go through your social media, I go through your YouTube, I'm going to find you making light. And you may say, oh, well, it was a tragedy. But joke. Something. And you might say, well, jokes are okay. Well, again, the reason why this is shocking to you is because you just have never, ever, ever faced consequences. You just haven't. Not in this avenue, not from this direction, but the rest of the world and many other places, especially in America, and especially from certain demographics, have faced consequences. Sometimes they're big consequences, sometimes they're little consequences, sometimes they're consequences of, again, I have some student in my classroom, and I've had examples over the years of this, of students who've come in with such erroneous and impossibly stupid, unsupported positions that are explicitly, almost word for word, Kirk-style bullshit. Based upon just, like, they just regurgitate literal talking points from Charlie Kirk. This was 2021, 2022, something like that. One of the specific instances I'm talking about. And I had to work and I had to explain. And again, I'm not a super far leftist. I'm I don't know, left of Democrats, right of tankies, certainly. But I'm also an academic, and truth is truth, and reality and is based upon observable things and facts, and you make arguments based upon what is there, not necessarily what you want there to be there. So if there's evidence for it, there's evidence for it. If there isn't, you can't make the argument. That's the basics of academia in many ways, is that you got to support, and there has to be some kind of justification, some kind of theory, some kind of thesis, some kind of argumentative structure. You have to build it up. So I didn't, like, again, it took so much time and so much effort on my part trying to help this student understand that their understanding of this particular topic was utterly fucking nonsensically stupid and ignored major factual evidence. And ignored, even if they disagreed and they didn't even understand the thing that they didn't agree with. They didn't understand anything. And there's such a work trying to explain to them that, like, no, you cannot say this is wrong without actually understanding what it is to some degree. Certainly not firmly, and certainly not in an academic sense. Like, this is where you stop being just another rube on the street who can have any dumb opinion as you want. If you want to write it, you want to publish it, you want to say it in an academic setting, you gotta have some fucking backing behind it. And that means that a lot of the things that you might believe in, those things that you like to say, and the things that you like to summarize things into, and the ideologies that you have, guess what? They don't work in academia because there is no support for it. And that's not, I'm not talking emotional support. I'm just talking about there isn't really enough real world support. There's plenty of tanky takes, tanky, super left communist bullshit talking points that I have heard that die in academia, that will be shot down. They will be shot down by explicitly left-leaning, even semi-communist leaning professors, because that's stupid. Just kind of like how, again, a preacher might tell you, like, no, that's not actually what the Bible says. No, it doesn't say that. The Bible says this is the ideology, this is the structure, this is what the religion says. You're wrong. Even if it benefits like this, oh, like, it would benefit Christianity if he had said this, and it would benefit us like this. No, that's not what it says. Yes, in this instance, if it said that, if it believed that, if it does that, yes, this would give us a one-upsmanship, and this would give us an advantage in this particular social environment and this particular argument. But it doesn't say that. It says this, and we have to reconcile with that. And it's a difficult one. You don't get to just cheat. Charlie Kirk cheats. You cheat.
You, your family, your friends that have ever stepped out of line from the nebulous, ever-changing definition of progressive. These are people
It's ironic, again, coming across this with how much the MAGA have eaten their own and abandoned them, and again, the fact that like one of the number one cause for from children homelessness, especially LGBTQ kids of any type, the number reason why they're homeless is because they get kicked out by their families, or they're harassed so much that they have to leave, basically either because CPS has to get involved, or they just run because they don't have time. Again, this idea that, oh, they're coming after you, they're gonna throw you away, blah blah blah, it's just like, man, conservatives have been doing that for hundreds of years. You're just pissed off that the people who are always the Florence Nightingale bleeding heart liberals, they're not bleeding their hearts for you anymore. And you're pissed off because you enjoyed that privilege.
I thought were level-headed. They were left-wing, but like they were one of the good ones. Like,
again, do you have anything to say about right? I know this video is not here, but I guarantee you go through your videos, like, you're just not really. You might do it based upon religion or some other kind of still semi-in vogue thing to shit on in the Republican sphere because you just don't know, or you haven't received a massive negative feedback from it. But just,
you can joke with them, they weren't those like woke SJWs, like they were cool, we can disagree and still be friends.
And again, the privilege. We can disagree and still be friends. Because nothing matters. Because these disagreements, these activities, these actions that I want to happen, they are inconsequential. They don't matter. They don't do anything. The problem is that, yes, they do. Yes, they do. We can be friends. Why? Your choices are actively harming me. Well, no, but it's not like my intention. We could still be friends. It's just this whiny loser behavior to where you want everyone to like you, no one to hate you, and you want zero consequences and zero memory of people who are affected by your bullshit.
Your friend wouldn't celebrate you being murdered, of course. But if they would celebrate an exact clone of you that wasn't you.
And I love this again, and I have no doubt that maybe this emotion is probably real, but this is the emotion of somebody who's just been a child for so long, who's been a sheltered child for so long, that they don't realize that. Again, and they want to try to extrapolate this. They want their feelings validated, even though, again, you're projecting your feelings, you're projecting your insecurities, you're projecting a lot on here, and you're extrapolating this because you're a child who saw somebody die, and you're absolutely horrified by it. Yes, it's not just movies. It's not just fake. People die, and it sucks, Shoe. It sucks a lot. And this is the thing that every single leftist and liberal and Democrat, to some degree, have been trying to fucking tell you and the Republicans and many people who vote and MAGA and all that stuff. They've been trying to tell you that these things have consequences. I know they seem immaterial, but shit does eventually roll down and it will hit you, and it sucks. And now you're like, oh, they would celebrate a copy of you. Are you saying that Charlie Kirk was a copy of you? Again, how shallow is this? Again, you're just saying, well, he was a political person who talked. He was just a podcaster, and I'm kind of a podcaster. Notice again, it goes back to what I was just saying, is that this is just a class thing. You are terrified because for the first time in your existence, somebody who is like you got hurt in this world. It was perfectly fine talking about violence when it was just some abstract drug dealer getting knelt on by his neck or some shit, some black kid running through the neighborhood, some white kid, some white homeless guy. It was perfectly fine. It was just somebody like that, somebody elsewhere. And it was safe and easy, and it didn't scare you. It was fine when they were just bombing buildings in, you know, Palestine or Israel or anywhere else, and you could have your sympathy and you shed your tear, but then you just go about your life and it doesn't change anything about you. It was perfectly fine when it was other goddamn people. But now when it's people like you, all of a sudden now it fucking matters.
That had all the same opinions.
You had all the same opinions as Charlie Kirk. Again, this doesn't work. The reason why people hated Kirk is because he said horrible things and had horrible opinions and wanted those opinions enacted. Unless you have those same opinions that you want enacted, that you're actively trying to get enacted, then, like, again, this is one of those things where, like, oh my god, but if, like, if they celebrated somebody who's a copy of you, who behaved just like a Nazi, like, they would celebrate it when it dies. Yes, because of the behavior.
Or some of the opinions that you have, if they would celebrate that clone being murdered, they're not your friend. Yes, they are. Or maybe they're not. Who knows? But the big thing is that, notice again, this is just as childish. Are they my friend or not? Yeah, they're also human beings. And your whole talking about people who disagree with you, this person disagrees vehemently with you. Should that person not exist? Should that person not be able to voice or express that vehemency? Because if they can't or they won't, then it's probably not that sincere of a disagreement. Again, it's a game. I hate you when we're playing football, but when we're off, of course I care and love you. But I'll do terrible things on the football field, but of course I love and care for you as a human being. It's just a game. And you're realizing that for a lot of people, they don't get this wonderful cloak, this fucking separation, that they're in the shit. I'm friends with people who are friends with Charlie, and I see how they are completely broken about this. Seeing them like this, and then at the same time my other friends posting shit like, "Rip bozo."
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Shu, and again, there's just nothing I can say to you, because you're just, quite frankly, too goddamn immature to understand jack shit. And you think, oh, because I'm picking both sides, or I'm somehow in between, or I'm upset about people dying, that makes me mature. It's not mature. It's not immature either. It's your lack of understanding of anything that's happening. That's what shows just a degree of complete Arrested Development style immaturity. You can't deal with it. Of course his friends are upset. But yes, you're noticing the inhumanity of distance and separation, and the fact that, again, would those people say it at their funeral to the wife's face, to the children's faiths? No, because it becomes real to them. And you notice, oh yeah, there's this reality and unreality, and the internet and all this creates this ugliness. Congratulations, Shu. Have you noticed this anywhere else? Did you notice this when it coming from your right friends? Did you notice the cruelty and evil and ugliness that Charlie Kirk would frequently do all the time on the internet towards others when regards to real world suffering? The callousness, the cruelty that they and he would show. Did it upset you? No, it fucking didn't. That should tell you something about your empathy and how misguided it is, how limited it is, how selective it is. Some people are people, and other people are just mere things, mere internet things to exist.
It's just sick. It's just sick shit. Personally, I would rather live in a world full of Charlie Kirks who would sit down and debate than a world...
Charlie Kirk did not sit down and debate. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He never debated. Again, you might say, well, this is semantics and you're just splitting hairs. These are important hairs. He never argued in good faith, and he never argued. And he never would accept his wrong and incorrect on anything. He went there, and again, this is just a fight, and you're trying to say that this guy who boxes another person, he's showing humanity and grace by physically punching them in the face. No, that's not that's not what's happening.
Full of people who agree with me, but would murder people who don't. Because if it's now normalized to just murder people who disagree with you politically, we don't...
It's not normalized. And more importantly, I'm sorry, how many goddamn... Did you miss the whole January 6th people calling for the murder and death of fucking Pence? Because he was going to certify the election results and Trump was pissed about it? Trump was kind of saying, yeah, Pence is a traitor. We got to force him. We got to stop him. His own vice president, guy who worked with him for 4 years, supported him through a lot. Hang him. Hang Pence. Were you upset with that?
Have a society. Like, that's it. It's over. But some of these people in particular, like, why the f*** are you celebrating? You! They think you're a f***ing Nazi too. They'll make a nice compilation of all the hot takes you've had over the years and spread it around to just...
So now you're upset about some conservatives who were, happy or whatever, celebratory or critical of Kirk? It's nonsensical. Trying to follow this is just nonsensical. It's the emotions of a 16-year-old girl who just never grew up.
Justify your murder. You don't get it, do you? We are all Charlie Kirk.
Again, notice this rhetoric right here. You do realize this rhetoric is extremism and violence and violence creating, right? Because, oh, they're advocating it. They want you to kill you. They want to do this. And there's nothing we can do about this because we're all Charlie Kirk, but we have to do something. This is the implication, Chew. You are advocating for violence. You are justifying future violence as a self-defense mechanism.
I've been doing this for 11 years. I have been harassed, doxxed, threatened, whatever, you name it, for 11 years by the left. And it hasn't moved me an inch because that's not how politics works.
Yeah, that's only been by the left, sure.
That's lunch table politics. I've talked about this before. People on your side being mean to you doesn't mean you overnight change your opinions on, like, healthcare. It doesn't work that way. I still have all my economic left opinions. I'm for strong social safety nets, workers' rights, unions.
Yeah, but you will absolutely side personally and socially. Again, you kept saying Charlie Kirk is us. No, he wasn't. He just isn't. And if he is, then you just aren't, like, again, you keep saying these things because they sound nice to you, but you don't give a shit about them because they won't affect you. You keep saying, oh, I want strong social safety nets. What the fuck does that mean? You party around with people who don't want those things, who are actively working against them. Oh, well, that's just table politics. It's just a game. Again, for you. But for a lot of people, this is the thing that is the difference between their life being fucking horrible and their life being slightly less fucking horrible. You don't get it because it's inconvenient to get.
Wealth caps, whatever, that has not changed. This is not me leaving the left because, frankly, I don't even know how to do that. This is me and many, many people looking around us at our so-called allies and realizing that even though we might share some, like, political opinions, we fundamentally do not have the same values or morals. And are we really allies if we agree on, like, taxes, but don't agree on the sanctity of human life?
You are if you're talking about taxes, you fucking imbecile. I'm sorry, you're literally talking about having friends with conservatives going to Turning Point USA and palling around all these things. All these people have opinions and desires and wants that are antithetical to your existence. that are antithetical to many. In fact, I'm willing to bet you, if you were to poll the majority of Turning Point USA attendees, if they were in favor of involuntarily committing all transgender or gender non-conforming individuals to an insane asylum, the majority would be at least moderately in favor of this. They would be like, well, yeah, that probably would be good because they need help. They would absolutely, if they had the power and they think they could push this through, they would push through a law that not just bans transgenderism, but that criminalizes it as a mental insanity and a social deviance. This is why people on the left get fucking angry with you, is because you keep palling around and trying to be nice and play nice and humanize people who are doing inhuman fucking things to others. They're pulling triggers left and right at people. They're just not actively... It's not a gun, but it has the same goddamn results. Get off your fucking privileged high horse and figure out what the hell is going on, Shoe.
I don't know. The way we view death now is just crazy. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the desensitization, in part thanks to the internet. You used to have to go out of your way to see gore and stuff like that, and now you're just scrolling through Twitter and you see someone set on fire, if someone gets stabbed on a train. And when someone like Charlie dies, it's not even real to people anymore. Like, it's like a movie or show. Oh, that character died? Good.
Yes, but now, Shoe, this is where critical thinking isn't born. Can you apply that to other things that are not explicitly violent in the sense, such as, you know, the idea of just taking away food stamps and stuff like that? Like, oh, that's just policy. That's nothing. Can you then go, well, no, that actually has real world existential effects. That when they say stuff like this, when they're doing this, and they're talking flippantly about it, like Charlie Kirk frequently did, about many policies and many things that are essential for people's living, it doesn't register with you, does it?
I hated that character. Like, no, that was a real human being with a family and kids, actually. Like, that was someone's son. The internet has turned real people into nothing but cartoon characters that disappear when you close an app. I remember for years...
You notice how she didn't give you the family history and love and care and friends for all those Twitter people that she brought up? All those evil leftist Twitter people who were celebrating Charlie Kirk's life? She didn't try to humanize them. You didn't try to humanize them, Shoe. You brought them up as literally targets, as examples, as objects to be ogled at and disgusted by. You didn't bring up, you didn't call them up and interview them, try to find the human. You didn't talk about maybe their sufferings and their difficulties that they struggled with. Issues that may or may not have been impacted by Charlie Kirk. Or just the general humanity that they might have shown. You didn't show them at birthday parties and how much they loved their nephews and nieces and sisters and brothers and mothers and fathers. You didn't do shit like that, did you, Shoe? You used them as nothing more than just internet objects to be ogled at and to be despised and disgusted by. Because it didn't matter that they were good friends or family members, good mothers and fathers. It didn't matter. What mattered was what they said and how it made you feel. Kind of like what Charlie Kirk, what he did, what he does, and why people may not be sympathetic about it, because they don't care about what he was. They care about what he said and how it made them feel. This is why when people say you're stupid and you don't think critically about things, this is why they say that, Shoe. Because quite frankly, and it's just coming, this my assessment of you is that you just seem like a terribly sheltered, immature, arrested development kind of person. Somebody who started off relatively privileged, decently comfortable, started your little online thing, got a ton of fame and ton of money really quickly, and you've just been able to live an incredibly privileged, safe, happy little life with very little actual pushback, very little struggle that comes from that. Like, you have struggle like everyone else, I'm sure, to a certain degree, but there's so much struggle you don't face because of your incredible privilege. From economic privilege, social privilege, you're in just such a nice, sheltered little bubble. And maybe that's what the internet does, is that it gives people a false sense of security to where they can be cruel and evil and mean to others, and a false sense of understanding of others so that they can be mean and cruel and not think it's going to have any impact on others. Maybe. But you did literally the very same thing you are trying to criticize people for in this video. You have done exactly the same thing. You've dehumanized people and turned them into quick little TikTok blurbs. And you might say they did that to themselves. Yes, but you didn't have to spread it. You didn't have to participate in that. And you didn't have to take them and use them for your own purposes. What happens if one of those people gets shot and killed? One of those little TikTokers. They get shot and killed. Somebody says, yeah, I did that for Charlie Kirk. Are you going to feel fucking bad? Are you going to make another video? Are you going to make a video for every single one that gets killed? If they get killed, are you going to make a video? Or are you just going to go, well, that's sad, but they upset me? Are you going to take responsibility for targeting them? For putting a target on their back? Should you? I don't know. But don't fucking pull this crying bullshit on me. Don't pull this crying bullshit on the rest of the world. You're too fucking old for this.
People would be like, oh, when you have kids, you'll change your mind on XYZ. And I was like, no, that's not gonna happen, no. And they were right. Almost overnight, you stop being so selfish, nihilistic. You stop having utopian fantasies of wanting to live in a post-capitalist society. And all you want—
Post-capitalist. Again, why? Why is that the one that changes? Right, because you become so obsessed with... You actually become... That would make you more narcissistic, because you become so obsessed with your own material existence and the fear of running out of resources that you become more dedicated to capitalist growth. Because you desperately want to grow more, have more, regardless of the consequences.
Is for the world to be safe. For the world to be safe and normal. And all that matters is your family and your community. And then your country, and then the world.
Yeah. Internet people don't matter. That's exactly what happened with Charlie Kirk and with people celebrating, is that he's an internet person to them. He doesn't matter.
You know? But we can't save the world. You can't. But you can save the people around you.
Of course you can't save the world. You can only save the people around you. Rugged individualism, conservatism, libertarianism. Look at that. It rears its fucking head every single time you find somebody who is a naive, arrested development, childlike, angry, pissy fucking person. It's the same goddamn disease. The same brain rot.
You can't say to these people who are celebrating this and justifying this, you can't say, what if that was your dad or your brother getting killed for their opinions, because they've already cut those people off. They've already cut those people off out of their lives. And posting videos and pictures.
So, I'm going to give you an example of somebody. I did this for my uncle. I wasn't really much in his life, but my mother cut him off. Even though it's her brother and she loves him very dearly, she cut him off from this. Now, she's not the lefty kind of crazy tanky you might imagine. She's more of a liberal, obviously. She's big on social safety nets, all these things that Shu just said she was in favor of. But then she's also, because my mom grew up poor and understands, capitalism reality, and knows that capitalism is not an amazing system, and it tends to grind up people. So she's not this nasty little fuck you got mine conservative neoliberal capitalist that I guess Shu has become, because she's a privileged little princess living in her tower and upset that the plebeians are upset eating slop, the little riffraff. But my mom cut him off. The reason why my mom cut him off is because my brother transitioned male to female. So now she lives. I still call her my brother because it's complicated, but that is my relationship with that person, is they are my brother, and I'll call her she because that's what she wants. It's fine. There's other problems and histories with this, but it's not beside the point. It transitioned. So she transitioned, my brother. And I think my uncle found some posts of my brother putting up a picture of him, of her at the time transitioning. Obviously transitioning, making the statement. And unprompted, he sent my mother probably close to 1,000, 2,000 words through text. This stream of consciousness hate. This self-righteous hate speech to where he goes from blaming her, telling her how she's a terrible mother, failing her child, how she's allowing her child to become this demon-worshipping, sadistic piece of shit, this fucking pedophile. And then he would go for a couple sentences saying how, I pray Jesus is going to save your soul, but I know you're too arrogant and stupid to do this, but maybe I can reach you and da-da-da-da-da. Goes on this long rant. Long rant. And he posts a good chunk of it on his social media, directly connecting to my brother and to my mother, like tagging them into it, along with other family members, about how degenerate and terrible transgenders are. And he made several posts about this, and my mother's a very sensitive person. She's very much a bleeding heart for everybody. She's the ideal that people think is conservative moms, but they're actually not really that conservative, of where they'll give them the shit off your back and take in people and feed them, and they're just the nicest people you could possibly imagine. That was my mother. Good solid Midwestern values. And she was horrified by this because, again, the one thing she won't fuck about with, the one thing she won't forgive is people being cruel to her children. That's the one thing she can't forgive. Can't forgive it easily, at least. So she sent him back a message saying, look, this was inappropriate. What you said was horrible and terrible. And I love my child. I love them, and the decisions that they make are theirs to make. They're adults. They are good people. They're not doing anything harmful, and what you're saying is horrible, evil, and terrible. And he sent back messages that were equally mean and hateful and accusatory. And then she said, look, I'm just not going to contact you anymore. I'm sorry. We're not doing this anymore. I'm not going to be a punching bag for your ugliness and hatred, and I'm not going to contact you, and I'm not going to be okay with this. The second he had a consequence of where, oh no, this is actually real, he sent back a half-assed apology to where he said, sorry, not sorry. It's like I'm sorry I was mean. I guess I was kind of drunk and upset, but I believe what I believe. I'm a good, hard Christian, good Christian, and I believe that this is the devil's work and Satan and blah, 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 but I don't want this to hurt our relationships. It's like, you literally hate my child, and you think they're going to go to hell, and you actively spread messages to denigrate it, and you did this. I'm sorry, your words and actions have consequences. And she said, no, look, this isn't okay. Till you apologize to my child. You half-assed apologize to me, and you didn't. because it's like this sorry, not sorry, it's what I believe, despite the fact that your belief just doesn't have a valid perspective, and more importantly, the way in which you expressed it is utterly invalidates whatever truth or validity you might have had in your original belief. So no, you don't get this. He's never apologized. He's gotten even more extreme with it, still posted up, still thinks that he was abandoned, that he was thrown out, that she was so cruel and mean, and how just judgmental bitch sister threw me out. And that's what he said and what he's thought. Despite the fact that, again, she didn't start this. This was a perfectly live and let live. You got a problem, you don't like something, but unless it's actually hurting that person or hurting you, for the most part, you should shut the fuck up. He didn't. He made it an issue. He made it a hard issue of either it's me or them. And my mom chose. She chose my brother. She chose her child. People keep saying, all these conservatives keep saying that, oh, my child abandoned me, you know, like my child threw me away. You didn't. The child didn't. More often than not, again, you look at even like the statistic that kind of helps prove this point is that the vast majority of LGBTQ kids who are homeless and on the streets, who are at risk and all this stuff, they didn't leave the house willingly and happily. They left a house oftentimes for two reasons, and these are the two most common reasons. They were either kicked out because they were gay and threatened by their family, disowned and thrown out for being gay, lesbian, transgender, anything like that. Oftentimes also just thrown out for like political disagreements. There are tons of people, tons of liberals and Democrats who have had their family cut them off because they're pro-abortion or pro-choice. Absolutely. It's so normalized on the right that people like Shoe don't notice it because it's just the way it always has been for the right. It's just common knowledge, so much so that you forgot about it. And the other reason, so either LGBTQ kids are either kicked out under usually threat of violence from their family members, or they run away. And they often run away because the parent household has become so hostile, so emotionally scarring. And I'm not just talking about, even though this is absolutely valid, like I'm going to take the right-wing kind of approach. And I'm not just talking about emotional damage of them not saying their preferred pronouns. I'm talking about straight up constant ridicule, hatred, screaming matches, physical abuse. That is the majority of why they are why they're homeless. So you want to talk about who throws away kids more, who wants to throw away their families more. The only reason why you're aware of liberals cutting off conservative family members is because it's such a new and rare phenomena. Because it's such a new thing. That's the only reason why you're able to pay attention to it and you're aware of it, is because the other form of this has been so normalized and so okay for so long that you didn't even realize it. You're not even paying attention.
Of Charlie's wife and young kids will not move these people at all. Because they hate their lives, they hate their families. They are atomized bug people. They are the unfortunate product.
Dehumanization bug people. If you criticize Charlie Kirk in any way, even if you didn't celebrate his death, and again, she's going to say, I'm not going to say that, I'm just excusing this for the extremists. Again, you're not doing that effectively well, and you know the paintbrush will be used for all.
Of modern society, and I feel bad for them. I do. I pity them and I wish I could help them, but I have bugman fatigue. And for the people who will come at me in a blind rage with a list of all of Charlie Kirk's biggest hits to
yeah, how dare people bring up the fact that he has done and said horrible things, that his words have inspired horrible things, that his words and ideology has a real world fucking counterpart. How dare they?
Convince me that I should hate him and should not mourn him. If you thought what Charlie Kirk said is wrong, you could have debated him. He was one of the few people.
He never debated, you fucking empty-headed stupid bitch. God damn it. I am fucking tired. This is what happens. I'm sorry. You are just so goddamn stupid.
People left willing to do that, and now he's gone. Charlie was a fan of free speech, but I'm worried whoever comes after Charlie won't be. Like, even from a political standpoint, not even a personal human standpoint, why are you celebrating, like, the most popular college Gen Z political pundit dying? Like, why are you celebrating him becoming a martyr? Say goodbye to that young male vote, all the...
Again, so, like, you're just trying to convince them, like, hey, you know, you shouldn't do this because otherwise they'll beat you harder. Hey, gay kids, stop being so outwardly gay and your family will stop beating you. Stop having opinions that upset these people. It's this battered wife. Like, you're trying to convince me to be okay with being a battered fucking wife. To these goddamn fucking cruel bastards.
Liberal Joe Rogans in the world are not fixing this. I just hope for the sake of this country that political violence does not become normalized, does not become a thing. I really don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see retaliation. I don't want to see us fall into a civil war. I don't know, this has all been extremely blackpilling. I think I'm gonna take a break from politics. I don't know, I'm a YouTuber, like, I'm not a political pundit, right? I'm not. My goal here...
And yet everything you do has the tinge of politics. Again, you just don't understand what politics actually is. You think politics is only when somebody is advocating for a person or a policy to be enacted in government. That's literally what you think only political action is that unless you're specifically saying, vote on Act 227, or vote on Resolution 297B, or vote for candidate XYZ, you think that unless that's the only way politics is being done. That's what she thinks. 'Cause she's stupid.
My purpose here is to entertain, is to make people laugh. That is what I'm going to do.
Laugh at who? At what? Do you think laughter might lead to people not seeing those others as human? As less than? As ridicule worthy? Again, I'm not saying these are bad things. I'm just saying you're just so painfully fucking naive as to what you've actually been doing and what it does and what it means in a language communication sense. It's just, you're a child. You're a stupid child, despite the fact that you're old. You have probably, I think you have a kid, apparently, from what you're saying, and you're just still so goddamn stupid.
That is what I will continue to do. The news cycle will move on. The world will move on. Charlie Kirk's kids won't move on. His daughter won't move on. His daughter does not have a dad anymore.
Yeah. It's just, again, you didn't put out any videos for the thousands of people that are murdered every year. You didn't put out a video for the dozens of people that are killed by police and in car. Again, you didn't put out a video for this. I'd be curious if I can find one about George Floyd. I'm curious what her opinion on George Floyd was. I understand. I know that she's become way more traditional, conservative, fucking in the past couple of years because of her marriage and again, just kind of lifestyle and privilege. But like, again, were you putting out fucking weepy fucking videos talking about how this is terrible? Did you put one out for fucking Sandy Hook?